You are now tuned into Flippin' the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 150 of Flipping the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese and Morgan Burkett, and we are at the 150 mark, which is a historical day for us, right? Because not only did we reach 150 episodes, but our Eagles team at PSN is actually officially credentialed with the Philadelphia Eagles. So now we'll be bringing you more intense and more great coverage, right? I mean, I feel like we're very unique in our coverage. We don't really kind of bite on anybody else's swag.
No, it's absolutely true. And with the those credentials that are brand new for PSN, you're officially credentialed media now. We're not just covering this team for writing articles and just improving as writers. We're in the room now. So this is going to be a fantastic run.
You guys got to take us seriously now because we know what we're talking about officially. You know?
Yeah.
We got the stamp of approval.
Yeah.
My name's Ian Rappaport.
Yeah, exactly. we got a letter from Howie directly. It was like, all right, listen to these guys. We're the reason he picked up CJG, I'm pretty sure.
We could take credit for the AJ Brown trade as well.
Yeah, we got that.
I asked for that a couple weeks before the draft, so I'll take credit.
We've been pulling strings for a while, is all we're saying. But it's nice to be recognized.
Absolutely.
Now, they're not listening to me yet, though. I mean, Greg Ward's not on the roster.
We're working on it.
We're trying our best on that, man.
I'm trying to really kind of get in his ear about that. So
I'm thinking we rotate Jalen and just put him at receiver at this point because that's the only thing. Yeah, this got his receiving yards at because he's running the football great. He's passing the football great. You just got to get receiving yards on him. So we put Greg Ward in quarterback. We let Jalen run some routes.
Can we talk about that for a second? Before we dive into the Packers game, how phenomenal is Jalen Hurts in year 3 right now? Not only with his passing ability, but how the hell he get so much better as a freaking runner? The guy drew 3 defenders on the way to a first down.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's interesting the way that he's figured out to kind of change the way I even think about quarterback. We've had mobile quarterbacks in Philly, probably one of the cities that's more familiar with mobile quarterbacks, but Jalen just does it in such a different way. When I think of mobile quarterback, I think of the Vicks and
Lamar Jackson,
those types where they're shifty, and then it's really the home run ability. But Jalen Hurts, he's almost like a possession runner, where the more carries he takes, the harder it is for him. He just wears
a Marshawn Lynch down.
Exactly. Well,
Marshawn Lynch, a quarterback.
He's not making the same kind of hits, but that's what he does. He wears defenses down. Just when you think they're going to make the tackle, they don't. And don't get me wrong, he's incredibly shifty, but he's just a pain to tackle. He's you see Josh Allen kind of running these defenders, and they don't like it. Well, he's not quite as big as Josh Allen, but he hits hard, man. I think that when you have a quarterback that some DBs don't want to tackle one-on-one, that's a problem. And I think the other thing too is the scheme allows them to do that. That's what I loved. That's what I loved in this last game. Is it's working for Jalen Hurts to run the ball. Why disguise it? He's running. So many QB draws, so many read options. Me and Eric were talking about this last week about how we kind of saw those disappear in the last couple of weeks. And then, pretty much what we wanted to see from this offense, it just, it was on display, man. That, if you can run the football like that this late in the year granted, Green Bay is not in the hunt, but they still have a really good run defense. And damn, it didn't look that way.
We're still facing the GOAT at the end of the day. Rodgers was picked. It was a back and forth, which is amazing to see. And I've been asking for that game all season. I wanted to see Jalen go back and forth for the QB because we saw it against Justin Herbert last year, and we saw him keep up with it. But this time we saw the defense actually pull their part and actually do something for the offense. And I freaking loved the way Jalen played.
Yeah, the last time a team put up those kind of rushing numbers, Philadelphia Eagles team put up those kind of rushing numbers, it was Scheid Park. If you can go back that far, that's incredible, and it's a historical performance. And I mean, just to say, like, the highest scoring game there. I mean, Jalen Hurts runs the ball. The entire team gets going. It wasn't just Jalen Hurts. It was Miles Sanders. It was everybody putting it in Gainwell. And all those points that you're putting on the board just with the run. And this is on a night where, like, yeah, A.J. Brown had a fumble, which I was not happy with. But
No,
at the same
definitely not.
time, that guy's playing with, like, pretty much on
wild flu.
fumes, right?
Yeah.
So this is a team that, again, and as crazy as this performance was, as awesome as they were rushing, and that carried pretty much the offense, it wasn't 100% offense. We've yet to see this team at 100%.
100%.
Really, and still put up 40 points. So it's a potent team, man. It's a dangerous team. Yeah. I guess that leads right into the question of this episode: is are we convinced? And I think the question should be: are we convinced about this team representing the NFC in the Super Bowl?
I'll let Morgan take this one. I'll follow up.
Well, I think what I really like, and one thing we may haven't mentioned yet, is the growth of Sirianni as a play caller, right? You see so many offensive play callers, once they start having a couple bad games, they start kind of diving deep into the bag, figuring out you see like 6 different trick plays, and like you can just see the panic, right? And you saw the opposite from Sirianni. He went back to his roots. They started running the football again. Like that was the game plan. And what I hope that shows is growth within the game as well. So when they are kind of faced with their backs against the wall, we're not going to see Jalen Hurts have 50 passing attempts just because the offense isn't working. Like they're not going to see scrambling. It took, 7 or 8 weeks of the season last year for Sirianni to recognize that and go back to running the football. And now it's been 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks where we saw a lot more, passing plays and just very predictable offense, and then right back to okay, let's confuse this defensive line, let's get them moving around, and let's go back to what we do and run the football. And so I really like that development. And so with the offense, I don't know if I'm convinced, but that's a really good sign going into the playoff run, where when you don't know what to do, you go back to your roots, as opposed to I don't know what to do. And what we saw against the Buccaneers is I don't know what to do. Let's try everything. Let's throw the bag out there and see what sticks. And I just think that's a much better approach from an offensive coordinator. It's like, what do you do well? What do you know you can do? And that's what they did against Green Bay. So I'm sure we're going to get into the defensive side of the football, but that's such a key development in a young play caller's career, where he just goes, okay, do you know what? We've looked pretty ugly the last 2 games. Let's go back and let's do what we do. And, it worked. And against a team where, you look at Green Bay on paper, that's a team you should have passed the ball against. And and instead of going, okay, let's beat them at what they're bad at, let's make them beat us at what we're good at. And that's just the way to play call. And that's what we saw. And it was fantastic.
There was many people that could say that, hey, Aaron Rodgers had a hurt hand that game. He wasn't throwing the ball accurately, blah, blah, blah. We didn't have Dallas Goedert, right? And the rushing attack was still, the blocking was there. And if the blocking wasn't there, Jalen Hurts was able to improvise on his own. It was creative. Shane Steichen bounced back as a coach and had himself a game. Yeah. I'm looking at exactly what you're saying, Morgan. I think it's maybe a little too early for me to say there's definites, because I want to see them go against, at some point, like I want to see the Dallas Cowboys game. I'll feel more confident Christmas Day if the Eagles win, about the probably potential pick of them being in the Super Bowl for the NFC.
Yeah, so I hate to be the guy, but there's one little thing that I'm very curious about now. Like we see Jalen can do it all. I have no questions about Jalen whatsoever. I'm still very much questioning Shane Steichen. And it's funny that you just complimented everything that Sirianni and them have put together, which I applaud them as well, because they have been able to adjust. My thing now is, have we fully seen their ability to adjust without Dallas Goedert? They've struggled. I mean, they haven't passed the ball as much efficiently. It's happened here and there with either play action or A.J. Brown on a slant, screen pass to Devontae Smith. But we haven't seen them be as effective as they once were with Dallas Goedert in the game on the field. And it shows you just how much they miss that piece of the puzzle. But on the bright side is, like, dude, they're missing that piece of the puzzle, and they're still kicking your ass. They're still winning. They're 10-1 still. They're missing Dallas Goedert. They're going to be missing CJ GJ for the next couple of weeks. The offensive line did not start the season, at the level that they're playing at right now, and like things are starting to click little by little. Where it's kind of like, okay, heading into the playoffs, like okay, guys, we know where we know our identity now, but a part of their identity is Dallas Goedert, and it's Dallas Goedert opening up the game for AJ Brown, for Devontae Smith, for Quez Watkins. We've been saying this whole time it's AJ Brown, but it's actually Dallas Goedert. Like this guy is such a huge playmaker that you're missing the yards at the catch on plays because he's not there. You're getting the catches and down. AJ's fighting for extra yards, but he's not getting open field. But that's because there's no other target out there distracting in the middle of the field like Dallas Goedert once was.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll probably talk about this too. Kind of being the opponents they face this week, but something's up with AJ Brown, man. Like the last couple of games, I don't know what's going on. He's still AJ Brown. He'll still make some catches, but the fumbles are problematic. He doesn't look, just as commanding when he's going in those one-on-one situations. I'm not sure what it is. Hopefully, the matchup coming up kickstarts him. But I mean, you're completely right, Brian. Having a guy like that in the middle, who's just so consistent and especially consistent. It seems like Dallas Goedert's always there when they need a play to be made, right? Like he might not make a play all game, and then you need a big third down, and who is it? It's Dallas Goedert, right? And these are the plays in the last couple of years where we've seen, uncharacteristic drops, or just him, making a poor decision on the route, not coming back to get it. He's been pretty consistent throughout his career, but really this year is where we started to see, okay, wow, like this guy
He's a
just
monster.
makes those kind of plays. Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of what Eagles fans knew he could be, and I'm sure that it was no secret to opponents and stuff like that. But people that weren't familiar with the Eagles, are wondering why we're putting him in that top 3 tight end conversation. And it's like this is why. It sucks that an injury like that kind of derails him, but it might be, in a way, and I hate to say this because it is an injury, but it might be a blessing in disguise because they got to figure it out. They got to figure out ways to win without Dallas Goedert, and they got to figure out how to get this passing game going over the middle. You see Quez Watkins, something that me and Eric talked about last week too. We talked about how Quez Watkins might get more involved. Well, lo and behold, right? There was more plays drawn up for Quez Watkins in this last game. There's that beautiful throw. Like, you can't throw the ball better than that.
And
that touchdown at the end of the half.
The way he caught that, like, that's a huge testimony of the impact of J.J. Brown, because AJ, when he first came in, said, I'm trying to teach the guys to not put their hands up until the ball is actually within reach to trick the defenders. And you saw that happen. Quez was running. I thought, damn, like, this is a short pass. And I know Quez turns around, grabs the ball, touchdown. Like, I don't know how to put this, but I really love the culture and the dynamic of this team because, like I said a couple episodes ago, like, they're building on the fly. This is preseason to them. Places where the season starts for them. Like, this is truly preseason to them because every week you have something to nitpick. You have something to take from it. It's like, okay, like, got to do better at this. The next week they do better at that, but got to do better at this. Like, it's phenomenal to see how well they're building. But go ahead.
Well, and we're so used to seeing a quarterback lose his first option, right? Like Carson Wentz. If Zach Ertz wasn't having a good game, the offense just stalled, right? And we started to see that with AJ Brown, where like, if AJ wasn't going well with AJ, then Jalen Hurts' passing game just kind of shut down, right? And so it's great to see. And again, like, you don't want to wish injury on anyone, but it might be what kind of the Eagles needed to kind of get that shot in the arm to figure out how to use these players. And you still see, I mean, Devontae Smith's going to make his kind of plays, right? Like, he's going to get his no matter what. But what you would like to see is them figure out a way where he isn't having to, catch contested footballs and go into, like, he can take the contact. He's a good guy, but like getting him the
some
ball
open space. Give him
exactly.
open space. Let that boy run.
We don't see as much of that, right? That's what he was. I mean, really impressive at in college. You can take the top off of defense. We're not seeing as many opportunities for him to do that. So I think they're gonna have to figure it out, right? The Titans. It's another good matchup. They got the Giants again. They got the Cowboys on the road. They have to figure out in this stretch with Dallas Goedert gone how to get these guys involved, and so. Either they will or they won't, but it's a good test for sure.
Question real quick. Does Goddard return in this stretch that you just mentioned?
He returns week 15.
Yeah, I think that's the earliest he can return. It doesn't mean he will, but yeah. I mean, another guy that we potentially could get back, and I'm sure we want to talk about last week a bit more, but I don't know if we want to switch over to the defense quite yet, but
Let's
seeing
do it.
that
I mean,
notification,
listen, everybody knows that the Packers, game. Everybody's ecstatic about it. We're just kind of nitpicking at it, but definitely like dive in. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so apparent how much Jordan Davis means to this defense. It's crazy. It's one of those things like you don't know what you have until it's gone, and then it was gone. I was like, oh my goodness, this is a different defense. So getting him back, hopefully for the Titans game. Shit, if he needs another week, give him another week, man. Like this guy needs to be healthy for the playoffs because it's a different defense with him in. And don't get me wrong.
Take your time.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like Sue's a great player, but he's past his prime. We love Linval Joseph when he does, but he's past his prime, and it's just a huge difference having an athlete like that in the middle of your defense. It's just crazy. It's just crazy the difference it makes.
I mean, he's a big boy. But I mean, with all the words that are going around in Nova Care complex where he's running around, jogging around, he's ecstatic to be around. Like, I'm excited to see him against the Titans. But I agree, like, hold him off for another game if you have to. To go back to Dallas Goedert, you mentioned like, the earliest he could come back is week 15. But the tricky thing with him is his injury, his bone has to heal before he comes back.
Right.
So if his bone's not in the position where it's healing, like he's not coming back anytime soon, possibly playoffs. Which again, it's it's a give or take. You reach the playoffs, great, you get him back, great, but it's kind of like his first game back in the playoffs is a little tricky. But back to Jordan Davis, like you really don't know the impact of a player until you don't have him. Like this guy was plugging the holes that we're seeing wide open now. Against the Packers, the run defense looked terrible, atrocious in the first half. You had A.J. Dillon just ripping off tackles. You had Aaron Jones just ripping off tackles, finding the biggest holes in the world and just running through it at ease. Jordan Davis is the player that you need to plug these holes. And imagine like you have Jordan Davis, Sue, and Linval Joseph on the line at the same time. And not to knock Fletcher Cox, but hey, he was complaining about the snaps. You have these guys that plug holes. It can only get better, which is the craziest thing to say about a 10-1 team.
And it's a testament to how much Jordan Davis already, has an impact in his rookie season. This dude, if he has some, durability and can find a way to preserve his body over his career, is going to be a legendary, athlete.
Absolutely, yeah. He's gonna blow up games. Like he's gonna be a game wrecker. You talk about game wreckers. Sue was one of those guys, but he's gonna be another one of those guys. But yeah, man, like opposing offenses, like. This is where when we talk about the defense, this is where I do get a bit worried for the playoffs because opposing offenses have figured it out now, man. Like it's simple, and you saw it against Packers games. They go to that 50 front. What they do is you add a receiver into the box, and you make one of the corners take a run gap, and then you run at them, right? Like you saw that outside zone. They ran it again and again, and they're forcing James Bradbury and Darius Slay to make tackles. And granted, not everyone has running backs like Green Bay has, where it's 1A, 1B, big dudes where you got to tackle. The Titans are one of those teams. So, again, they're probably going to do the same thing. But, they got to figure it out, right? Because then as soon as the Eagles get out of that package, out of that 50-front package, they're in a 4-front. And Flesh doesn't have it anymore, man. Like, he's a great pass rusher still. But that 2-gap in on asking him to 2-gap and carry doubles, it's just been tough. And then you put a lot of stress on the linebackers. And, TJ Edwards is playing out of his mind right now. Kaiser White, started off high, still playing great, but, took a little step back. But it's just like it's very clear what Jonathan Gannon wants to do. He wants to keep his corners free, and he wants to allow them to cover. And then that secondary, they'll try and do little things to confuse you and trick you. And it just doesn't work to trick a team that's just willing to pound the ball down your throat. And you got to find a way to stop that. And the answer is Jordan Davis. That's really what the answer is. So I really hope they can get him back. But if not, Titans game's going to be tough, man, because they're going to make Darius Slay and Bradbury tackle. They're going to make them tackle.
And Derrick Henry is not just a regular running back.
Right. Yeah.
But Jordan Davis is not a regular defensive tackle. So if you need to, you bring him back.
I think it's a bigger test for Jordan Davis to go against Derrick Henry than it would be Zeke and Pollard. Now, and going against, meaning like, he just returns to the lineup. It's not like he is doing all the work. But yeah, so I kind of would like to see if he can play against the Titans, but I wouldn't worry about it either. Like, if he's just going to come back against Dallas, and that's a game that really matters because, like I said earlier, that's the team that I want to see this Eagles team go against before the playoffs start. Yeah, I would like that to be the case. I mean, I don't know. It kind of just depends on is Derrick Henry, the bigger test? I mean, I think you might get more out of playing him this week than against Dallas. You might get more of an answer. You might realize what this team is, and maybe by the time they play Dallas, it's just a more cohesive defense overall. I mean, again, well, I guess we'll figure out, come Friday at practices what the status is on that at the latest. But I don't really have a preference, if you will. I mean, I would like to see him play both games, but Tennessee is a bigger test, I think.
I think the tricky thing though as well is like they're 10-1, and they're being chased by the Vikings and the Cowboys, right? At what point can the Eagles lock up home field advantage where it's a comfort level for the Philly to kind of like ease back a little bit? And I think getting to that Dallas game, it's a possibility we could have the number 1 seed locked up. And right now, it's like you got to do everything you can to lock it up because we don't know Vikings versus Jets. Mike White looked like the second coming of Kurt Warner. He looked phenomenal. Garrett Wilson was balling out of his mind. And we know the Vikings are not great against good teams. So if they lose that game, Eagles win this game, Dallas somehow, some way loses whoever they're facing this week, get a little bit of stretch, keep on building on that to the point where it's like, hey, we get that number 1 seed, then it's kind of like that. I think that's the comfort thing. While Dallas is the ideal game everyone wants to see the Eagles go against, I think the mindset is like get the 1 seed, worry about Dallas later.
Yeah, I mean, I ate my words for it. I got a buddy who's a Vikings fan, and during the Bills game, when they got off to that slow start, I was chirping them out saying, "Hey, listen, the Vikings are pretenders," all that stuff, and I had to eat my words. But I do think that a win like that camouflages a lot of issues, and the Vikings, are one miraculous catch away. And don't get me wrong, like miraculous. Though you're not going to see another catch like that this season, right? Away from losing that game against the Bills, and the Bills have not looked the same. And there's a true, like, outside of Kansas City, every single good team has a knock against them, and the Eagles had a couple. They lost to Washington and didn't do well against the Colts, but the Colts were the team that beat Kansas City. It's a weird year this year in terms of wins, but the one thing that you can say about the Eagles is they've found a way to win these close games, whereas you see other teams not, right? Kansas City did not beat the Colts, right? The Bills did not beat the Jets. They did not beat the Dolphins, and the Vikings. Again, their losses to the Eagles, but it was a very convincing loss. It wasn't close. That wasn't a close game by any means, right?
So I think blown out of the water by the freaking Cowboys too.
Right. Well, exactly, and it wasn't close, right? So those are those kind of games where like there's no game where the Eagles again, it sucks to lose to Washington. Don't get me wrong, but that wasn't a loss where you're like, wow, that's really indicative of who the Eagles are. Whereas I think some of the Vikings, again, watching them get destroyed like that in the Cowboys, maybe it's a wake-up call. Or maybe it's a sign that the Vikings aren't who we thought they were. And the Bills with all these losses, maybe that's a sign too. And I just feel like there's a couple weeks in here where the Eagles have these matchups where it's it's going to be definitive at some point. People want to keep counting the Eagles out as the 1 seed, but eventually it's going to be hard to deny.
It's going to be the next 2 games that have a say in if we're the real deal or not. And I think that's, over the next 2 games, if Philadelphia could just collect 2 more wins and, look as impressive as they have been so far, then, I think I bought in.
This is a very foolish question, and forgive me. It's been a long couple of weeks, and I'm a little on the weather, like Eric is over there.
Yeah.
So there's 17 games in the season, correct?
Yes.
All right. So we're at 11. We're at the 11th.
Yep.
Who do we have? Is it Titans and who else?
Titans, then Giants, then Bears,
Dallas as well.
Then Dallas.
So if we win the next 3 games, ideally, that's 13 and 1. I mean, can we should the 1 seed be locked up if the Vikings lose another game?
I mean, we have the head-to-head, so they could end up with the same record when we have the 1 seed. So I mean, it doesn't really. If we win those 3 and the Vikings also win those 3, then the answer is no. But if they lose one, then we're 2 games up. It's going to go to the end of the season. That's what it's going to go to. But the Vikings also have a pretty easy schedule. They play
They play the Jets this Sunday. I wouldn't call that easy.
They play the Jets. I think they still have to play the Dolphins. That's a big matchup because they have the AFC East. So they have the Jets. They already played the Bills. I don't know if they play the Patriots yet, but they do have to play the Dolphins. That's a matchup. But other than that, man, they play their own division, which is not looking strong right now.
So they play the Jets, the Lions, which the Lions they're starting to really throw that ball.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. They won 3 in a row, right?
So Jets, Lions, Colts, Giants, Packers, Bears.
Yeah,
they don't face the Dolphins. Oh no, yeah, they don't face the Dolphins.
I mean, the Eagles could clinch a playoff berth this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's what Seattle has to lose. Giants have to lose.
So yeah, Eagles win, Commanders loss, 49ers loss, and a Seattle Seahawks loss. Loss or tie for all those, I should say, except for the Commanders.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at this point, your goal has to be the 1 seed, right? Like, just the way you're playing, like, you need that. I feel like you need that validation on the season. And listen, if someone comes into Philly,
nobody's winning in Philly. You're not winning in January and February in Philly. I'm calling it right now. It would take
the Eagles not showing up to play, right?
Yes.
It would take the Eagles not showing up to play, and
that's the backups.
And that's what you
take Greg Boyd at quarterback.
What you like, man. That's what you like. Like that's what kind of what I've been saying is like I feel like in every game is like it takes the Eagles not showing up to lose a football game or to keep it close. If the Eagles show up, it's not a close game, right? Or like it is, but like even Green Bay, like I get that last Christian Watson touchdown where Jordan Love just threw it and like, but like we kind of turned off and that's not a good thing for a team to do, but like it wasn't close. No one in the stands was going, oh, they might pull this off. Like it was close, but it wasn't close. You know what I mean? Like it was garbage again. Time. It's not a good conclusion to come to, but like you really weren't that concerned. It wasn't one of those nail biters. You're like, oh shit, they might make a comeback. Like, so I like again. Whereas the Vikings, like I don't know, did they not show up against the Eagles? They looked like they were playing like they were trying their best. The Eagles
was getting kind of pissed off. He was getting really pissed off during that period. So it was definitely a game where you saw the Vikings actually trying to figure out what the hell was going wrong because everything was going wrong for them. But I don't know. I mean, it sucks that this season may come down to the wire, record wise, because I would like to see the Eagles clinch the 1 seed within the next 4 weeks at least. I'm pretty sure they'll clinch the division because I don't see them losing to the Giants. We faced the Giants twice towards the end of the season, right? And we faced the Cowboys once. Cowboys game is going to be very interesting just because we don't know what the hell we're going to see at the Cowboys. They're getting James Washington back. They might get Odell. Dak is finally going to get the long ball back, and that's something that was very lethal when they had Amari Cooper. Something that they have not had this season. They thought Michael Gallup could kind of provide them with. But at the end of the day, just because you give credit to one team doesn't mean you can discredit the Eagles. The Eagles still have 2 of the best cornerbacks in the game. They may have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back by that time. Who knows? They'll have Jordan Davis back. Did we have Jordan Davis against the Cowboys or no?
Yeah.
Oh, we did. So. It was like week 3 or something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, listen.
I don't think he was playing that much. Like, he wasn't fully into it. Like, that was still when he was splitting snaps.
But we have Sue. We have Joseph. We have all hands on deck going into the Cowboys game. So I wouldn't be too fearful of who they are right now. But you do have to give them credit. Like, they're picking up where they left off every season pretty much. Like, Dak is a great game manager. He's great at his job. Zeke and Tony Pollard are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And Dallas is finally using Pollard to his full extent. But if that long ball is not there, Dallas is not going anywhere. Yeah.
I mean, you put a nice little bow on it. I feel like that's kind of the way that you got to go into this matchup is you have to stop the run. You have to stop those 2 running backs. And it's weird. There's no question that Pollard's the more explosive and kind of more dangerous runner.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's always Zeke that does well against the Eagles. It's just a given, right? And so, Zeke's like prime Zeke when he plays the Eagles, which, it's a good test. And I think, well, exactly. That's what the Eagles need. They need those kind of tests. And like talking about the last game, the tackling was actually much better, right? Like again, like the Packers tried to stress, what should be the worst tacklers on the team, which is your corners. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't perfect. It wasn't great. We missed some tackles, but the linebackers were tackling really well. Still have to work on getting off those blocks when they get climbed to, but the tackling was much better. And this is a problem that we talked about all year. Whereas like I was having this conversation as well, where judging, I think there's still a lot of people that are on the fence about Jonathan Gannon, and rightfully so. But the things that are major issues he is dealing with, they are getting better, right? Like we talked about last year's, like the easy completions, the completion percentage was crazy. Quarterbacks are just driving down the field. Granted, we added Bradbury, but the completion percentage is way down. I think they're second in the league right now in completion
But
percentage.
personally, I still hold it against him. I feel like he still doesn't trust his players completely. I feel
Right.
like
So
one week he's all in, the next week he's all out. So it's too much back and forth for me
right.
for Gannon.
Yeah, I mean, I think we like. I forget myself that he's still a young coach. Like,
Yeah.
on our coaching staff, he doesn't seem like that young of a guy just because everyone's 15 and there's out there, right? Like, still waiting for their beards to grow in, and they're out there coaching, right? And exactly, right? So I think we forget he is a pretty young coach. He hasn't been doing this as a DC, for very long, and so there's still going to be kinks to iron out. And I think that one of those things is kind of matching up the front end to the back end. Is a lot of times we see, these blitzes that he designs, and then all of a sudden you have Josh Sweat, covering.
And where's Robert Quinn?
Yeah, we see him.
Did we not trade for that guy?
Yeah, we see him a bit, but I think that was one of those flyers you take because what did we really give up for him? I think that's a guy that might show up in the playoffs too, right? Like, you never know. Like he's a savvy guy. But again, I think that what my point is that those couple of things that were major issues, the tackling, right, the off coverage where we're allowing high completion percentage, the yards after catch, those things are slowly starting to be cleaned up. Obviously, you love them to get fixed overnight, but on the defensive side of the football, these are gradual changes, and there's still 6 weeks left in the season before you hit the playoffs. Like if you can clean up some of these minor issues, and granted, losing Chauncey Gardner-Johnson sucks, but man, can we talk about Blankenship a bit?
Yes.
My goodness.
Freaking shit.
Granted, like bad angle on a long touchdown by Christian Watson, but the way he was flying downfield to make hits, my goodness.
He was good in the run game. He was really good in the run game.
And he fired in on that interception like a missile.
Oh my god, bro! And he kept on rolling. Yeah. Did you guys see the interview? He's like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should get up and start running, but I just wanted to keep rolling. Like, what a Ricky didn't do, but still, like, phenomenal.
When I think this kind of, in a way, it's a good what's the word I'm trying to use? Not sentiment, but it's a good indication of what Jonathan Gannon's defense is about. Is unfortunately, the idea behind this defense is you're going to allow that kind of slow march down the field because it's going to lull this offense into a false sense of confidence. Like there's a reason why the player leading the league in interceptions goes out and like within that same drive, his backup, who's an undrafted free agent, who's had 2 snaps of defense, goes in and makes an interception, right? Yeah, like as good as that play was, it's caked into this defense. It's part of this defense where you kind of have to deal with those dink and dunk routes because we get the interceptions, because we make those big plays. And it's frustrating to think that way, but again, it's more about winning the war than the battle. And there's not too many wars this defense has lost, right? Like there's not too many games where like, wow, like the defense really first of all, they've only lost 1 game, right? But I think we forget just because of how that game went that the last 2 games the defense won for this, like kept the team in it against Washington and then won it against the Colts.
So, no, it's absolutely true. Like this defense has made the adjustments at times, but stuck to those adjustments and usually have worked, or they've just outplayed and won the field positioning game, like as you were kind of mentioning, to keep them in. It's something that. It's kind of like to me how people say that basketball is different from the regular season than it is playoffs.
For sure.
Is Gannon's defense going to be, I don't know, maybe exploited? Like, are people playing it differently in a regular season than the teams that we'll see in the playoffs? Okay, now here's all the adjustments that we didn't want to run against Gannon to show our hand. Like, I think about that too, because it's just a far leap from last season to this season just to sit here and believe to say, hey, we all got it figured out.
Yeah. I mean,
I think teams will show their hand right now, though, because everyone wants to knock off the big guy on campus. But I do get what you're trying to say, as against the teams like for example, the Cowboys. Like, will we see what the Cowboys can actually do against this defense? Or the Cowboys kind of be a little bit more refrain themselves to hold back to see if they run into the Eagles in the playoffs and exploit, a weakness.
Like it's looking at the way that we beat the Cowboys last time, it's like it's not the same team whatsoever. Cooper Rush is not the quarterback. It's one of those scenarios where we don't really know the teams that are going to be we're really going to be contending. I'm sorry, with on the way through the postseason, and if we get to where we want to be, probably the Chiefs, right? Against those teams, they're going to pick apart maybe this defense, and I'm kind of wary that how soft the coverage is in between. Quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes are going to just pull that apart, and I don't know that Gannon has a defense ready to take on an elite quarterback. Like we haven't really faced elite quarterbacks often enough through this regular season to really have a thumb on, okay, his passing defense is legit. Like his schemes are awesome. Like I don't know that.
To kind of pick on that, I mean, ideally, damn, smack the mic. To the national media, right? Kirk Cousins is probably a dark horse MVP candidate, right? The guy's picking off defenses with his passing, and Justin Jefferson's racking up 200 yards. They held Justin Jefferson to what was the amount of yards? It was very minimal. Yeah. And they won 24-7, so they showed like they can be very good when they're hitting on all cylinders. It's just like, why are we not seeing that? And this is what I'm talking about. Like, why are we not seeing that so often? We're seeing too much back and forth. Like against the Packers, like it was a back and forth game. Aaron Rodgers was doing what Aaron Rodgers wanted to do. Matt LaFleur was doing what Matt LaFleur wanted to do with the run game. Why are we not seeing this stone cold defense that we saw in the beginning of the season? But hey, it's night and day. Lions week 1, we gave like 30-something points. Week 2, it was Vikings, 7 points. Like it's too hot and cold for me to trust. But again, he's young, he's still learning. But at some point, you got to show that you really trust your players to do what they do best.
I mean, I think one thing that kind of flies under the radar is that the Packers had the Thursday game before this, right, and then they had the night game on Sunday, so they did have that extra time to prepare, and I think tape factors in, right? Like I think that's kind of the whole point of this defense is to confuse maybe not even like offensive coordinators, but quarterbacks, right? It's like they do a lot of the same things that look different at the snap, right? And like there's only so many ways to play defense, right? You got your man, you got your zone, and then you can dress up a zone however you want, but you're covering ideally most of the zones, and then there's one where if it's the hook zone on the strong side or whatever it is, there's going to be one pocket, and you're just forcing the quarterback to find it, and you're hoping the blitz gets home before they can find it, right? And then when you're in man, you're just hoping your guys can hold up, and that's kind of where I see the disconnect is like the don't get me wrong, like defensive line was pretty good against Green Bay, and what I saw, to be honest, and like I know he's a legendary quarterback, but I saw Aaron Rodgers quit. Like that's what I saw, right? And the reports come out the next day, like he thought he had this and that, he thought he had broken ribs, he had lacerated kidneys. Dude's fine. He might play this week, right? So what I saw a dude quit, and anytime your defense can make a guy like that who's been in some tough tests quit, like you're obviously doing something right. And then Jordan Love comes in. He doesn't have anything to lose, right? So he's going to toss him up, and he did. Obviously you don't want Marcus Epps running behind Christian Watson. It's those kind of plays where kind of like, does Jonathan Gannon get it or does he not? Because
it makes you scratch your head. Like, why are you prevent defense when it's a kind of a close game?
Right. Exactly. Any situation where you have Marcus Epps covering Christian Watson, like, that's not a good matchup, right? So that's where it doesn't really match up. Like, I think that hopefully he's learning his lesson and kind of like, okay, well, Marcus Epps can't do that. But at the same time, and I was saying this the other day to someone I was talking to too, is like he's gone 11 weeks, right, where he's camouflaged the fact that Marcus Epps is a starting safety for this team, which is crazy. Like there's like I get it. He's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, I don't think he's that bad, man.
Yeah, that was a real jab. That was a huge jab. I think Marcus has done a phenomenal job. I mean, he hasn't had the interceptions that he used to have last season.
Right, but I mean, he's
hold on, that make me.
I think he's a guy. He's a guy that comes downhill. He makes tackles, but we have him playing mostly single high when he's in. And if not, we're helping him out with CJG, who's not a single high guy either. He's a box guy. Like there's certain things he's done really well, and one of those things is camouflage the fact that these safeties aren't that good at covering the whole field. Are you
taking a shot at CJGJ too?
I'm not taking a shot at him.
I feel like you're taking a lot of shots here, bro.
he came in from the Saints as the number one slot corner. Like that's who he was, right? Like that's PFF's big thing is he was the big slot corner guy. And Jonathan Gannon's got him playing pretty decent coverage 15 yards away from the field or from the line of scrimmage, right? And so again, I'm not taking shots here, but
damn, Epps has allowed 4 touchdowns this season and a passer rating of 130.
right. But until I bring it up, we're like, oh, Epps has been playing pretty good. Epps has been playing pretty good.
Hold on,
Epps has been doing really well, right? But
let's look at CJ.
By the analytics, I was wrong.
Hold on. Time out. That's wild. That's wild. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Advance. Oh, okay. He's allowed 441 receiving yards this season, 3 touchdowns.
But he's
passer
got
rating
7
of,
interceptions.
Yep, passer rating of only 79 though. So literally, almost half of what Marcus Epps is able to cover.
Oh,
damn! Wow.
That's what I'm saying. So like, oh, maybe Jonathan gets onto something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not great, but this is a team where like you like by definition should have great safety. It's kind of like we're talking about Jim Schwartz, right? Jim Schwartz did a really good job, and again, this conversation I having the other day, but Jim Schwartz did pretty well with Ronald Darby and Jalen Mills as his corners in a scheme that needs number one corners, right?
You're giving me flashbacks. I don't want to have these kind of flashbacks right now. Like Jalen Mills, like I know, like
fair enough. But I think the defensive coordinator's job really is pegged to how well they hide the team's deficiencies, and the deficiency of this we were talking about before the season even started is the safeties aren't great. And there's been a couple of times where it's like, oh shit, like, you know, Blankenship should have taken a better angle on that last touchdown. And we have this and we have that. But hey, they're limiting the big plays for the most part. They're making teams drive down the field. And I feel like that's on Gannon. Like that's a pretty good job. That's pretty well done.
Damn.
I just hope that it carries over through the postseason, man. It gets to be different ball. And I hope that Gannon's ready for it, honestly.
I feel like Morgan just exposed the defense, and we're going to see the Titans go off for like 500.
If they want to come in and throw the ball with Tannehill, man, and not use Derrick Henry, that would be fine with me, man. That would be fantastic.
So really quick, we're cutting this podcast a little short, but Titans and Eagles. Obviously, score predictions. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first on this.
Tough one.
I'll give I'm gonna go 30. I'm gonna go 33, just like how I did last week for the Eagles. 33-17 Eagles.
Wow.
I don't think that Derrick Henry. I do think Derrick Henry gets a lot of yards between red zone, the 20 to 20. But I think they don't finish drives outside, and eventually, I think Gannon does make a few. I guess adjustments, if you will, to kind of stifle or do what we can to Derrick Henry, but it's not going to be to the degree that he was just stuffed up. Derrick Henry is going to get a pretty good day out of us, and he'll rush for a touchdown. Maybe he'll rush for all the touchdowns for that Tennessee gets. Maybe there's not a passing touchdown whatsoever from Tennessee. I expect Derrick Henry to carry that offense, but I also expect there to be a big play enough to drive that score to be 33-17.
You want to go next, Brian? Do you want me to go next?
I'm curious. I'm still pondering right now.
It's crazy to say that I think that the result of this game might come down to whether or not the rookie plays. But if Jordan Davis plays, this might be a completely different game. As it stands, I don't think the Eagles have the teeth to truly slow down Derrick Henry. So I think they put up 21. They can't pass the ball, right? So it's going to be slow. You can't really put up more than 21, 24, 27 points running the football the entire game. So I think it's going to be 21, maybe 24. And I think the Eagles actually can, like, again, I probably should have done a bit more research on the Titans defense. From what I know, they're not a great defense. They got some injuries. And so I like the odds. So I think I'm going to go 28 to 21 Eagles.
So AJ Brown got interviewed today about the Titans today.
Yeah, he's about to go crazy. He better.
He said a very interesting comment that I feel like is going under the radar. He complimented the Titans secondary, saying that the secondary is a staple of the team pretty much. That on top of Derrick Henry, like, I feel like this is another Colts game. Like this is, like Eagles should go in there, rock out, call it a day, go back home and have some Campbell's soup. But I don't know, like, this feels like it's not, I won't say trap game, but this feels like you're catching the Titans at a really, really good time. They're finding their groove. I think at best, I know I'm not best one, but at minimum, it's gonna be 17-14 Eagles.
Okay.
And I think AJ does go off. I give AJ about like 80, 90 yards. But I think what I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast is you're gonna feel the void of Dallas Goedert in the pass game. Like that's gonna be a huge void you're gonna feel. But I think they pull it off. I mean, 17-14, I was what I'm going with. At minimum. I'm intrigued enough to go to the 30s and to go to the 20s, but no, I'm not doing it. I can't.
I like it.
To what extent is this really a revenge game or a storyline driven game?
It's more like AJ versus the fans, honestly.
Yeah,
because the fans don't know
what in Tennessee is big. I think that's a big deal.
No, it's in Philly.
Oh, is it? Okay. You said they're gonna go there, and I was like, I thought it was in Philly. No, I let you convince me, but
no,
it would be a bigger deal if it was in Tennessee.
It would be a huge deal if it was in Tennessee, but I think it's more AJ versus the fans because the fans of Tennessee think AJ gave up on them. But he's a player that wants to get paid. Tennessee didn't want to pay him because of his knee issues.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't really think it's a revenge-driven angle from AJ Brown. Like AJ Brown, I think looks at everything that went down and goes, the Eagles 10-1. That's pretty cool. That's what I won. Like what revenge? Like if
I'm
anything,
good on this side.
Revenge on the Eagles.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I wish the game was in Tennessee for him. But man, I hope it kind of lights a fire on him because he needs to pick it up, man.
Yeah, he needs to clean up a bit. But again, I think it's the Dallas Goedert effect, dude. Call me crazy. I just think they got very accustomed to having that big guy in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, it forces linebackers to cover. And if they're covering, they're not coming into the box to stop the run. And that's massive. That alone is massive.
Yeah. Missing Dallas Goedert is pretty big. But other than that, I mean, we gave you our predictions. We broke down, what we loved about, seeing this team not blow out, but give it to the Packers. We'll definitely be back next week.
I think we even got some stats predictions in there.
We did. So shout out to Real Freedom Productions has been pretty consistent. Damn, if AJ goes for 150 yards and a touchdown, I'm winning in my fantasy league, both leagues. Like I need to happen because he's been really freaking quiet.
Miles Davis.
Who's Miles Davis? Isn't he
the Jazz.
Isn't that the guy that was what was that?
Blues?
Billy? No, it wasn't Blues. He was a Blues player. Wasn't it like Billy Madison? If P and Pants is cool, they consider me Miles Davis.
I don't know.
I don't know about that. I think he was I think he was a Blues.
It's on Billy Madison. It's like an Adam Sandler movie from like the 90s.
Now you're gonna make me go see that. I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch the movie. Look for that now.
That's one of the lines in that. It's the only way that I know that Miles Davis, quite frankly, played jazz because maybe look it up afterwards.
But again, huge shout out to Miles Sanders because he was balling the freak out. The guy's 100 yards away from reaching 1,000-yard mark. That has not been done since 2014, since Shady McCoy did it. So if that happens, that's huge. If that happens, also he's out of the price range for to come back with the Eagles. So
yeah, so like do good, but not great.
Yeah, come on, Miles. Like tweak your toenail or something, bro.
I want to see Kenny break 100 yards. That's what I want to see.
I want to see Miles Sanders run the ball like Miles Davis would play the trumpet.
Oof. Dude, we're definitely.
I don't know what that means, but that means 100 yards, I think, right?
It's music to my ears. That's what it is. It's music to my ears.
Okay, right. Okay.
Oh God, but other than that, we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully we're all feeling better at that point. I think Morgan is the only one that's completely healthy right now.
Yeah. I'm just in different time zones. All I'm in. So.
That's all it is. Yeah, he's living in a different age and different era in life.
Yeah.
I got the time zone sickness.
That's all it is.
Yeah, I got the Jersey crap. Anyways, guys, I'm Brian Cameron. He's Eric Reese alongside Morgan Burkett, and we're flipping the birds.
Go Birds!
Yes, sir.